I want to put forward a hypothesis here. A hypothesis that I realize nobody else is putting out there, but I'm only doing it because I can't really figure out why nobody else is doing this. The reason I'm doing this is because for weeks now, I feel like I've been waiting for somebody else to say this, somebody else more likely. Somebody in the Beltway press, for example, who obsessively covers Washington. But so far, nobody has been saying it, and so I feel like I have to. I fully expect that this will be debunked, that there is something else going on here that I just don't see that will disprove my hypothesis. But we have been trying for weeks now on our staff to disprove it, and we just can't. So, again, I realize nobody else really wants to say this, but I'm just going to say it. I think that John Boehner is really bad at his job. John Boehner is the top Republican in Washington, Speaker of the House, third in line for the presidency. He is running the only part of the government that Republicans control. And I realize this will probably sound rude, like I am being insulting or attacking toward Mr. Boehner. That is not at all how I mean it. I just mean it specifically in terms of his job performance thus far. I think he is really outstandingly bad at his job. I think that everything he's done so far has, what's the opposite of the Midas touch? Let me just give you the evidence, and let's just start with today. Today, John Boehner went to RNC headquarters. He apparently had some sort of meeting there, and afterwards, he called a press conference. Clearly, he thought that he had something to say that was going to nail the president on the president's newly released budget. He was going to go after Obama. He was going to make headlines. He was going to score big political points today. So John Boehner purposely sought out the press. He gathered everybody around him, and then this is what he said to the cameras.
Over the last 2 years, since President Obama has taken office, the federal government has added 200,000 new federal jobs. If some of those jobs are lost in this, so be it.
So be it. This is evidence for the John Boehner is bad at his job hypothesis for a few reasons. First, what he said today is not true. And while everybody should avoid making statements that aren't true whenever possible, if your job title is Speaker of the House, you should probably extra, doubly, triply avoid making statements that are not true.
Since President Obama has taken office, the federal government has added 200,000 new federal jobs. Not true.
Total, utter 100% bullpucky, actually. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which keeps track of these things, darn bureaucrats. When Barack Obama came into office, there were roughly 2.79 million federal employees. According to the latest figures available, there are now roughly 2.85 million federal employees. That would be an increase of about 58,000 new federal jobs, which is not even close to what Mr. Boehner said, which was 200,000. Also, for the record, proportional to the population, the size of the federal government is at something like a 50-year low right now. Just in case you care. But even without that context, John Boehner, with his made-up 200,000 number, is just not telling the truth. But beyond that, John Boehner didn't just say something untrue about President Obama today. What he said about President Obama and jobs was that if Republican policies cause job losses, then, and I quote, so be it. So be it. Sort of infinitely quotable, isn't it?
So be it. So be it. Maybe so be it for him, but not so be it for the people who are losing their jobs.
If you are the Speaker of the House, it is bad to be wrong in public. But it is really, really bad to make headlines for having been wrong in public with a message that is 180 degrees opposite of what your party's message is supposed to be. John Boehner has now gone from, where are the jobs, to job losses? So be it. But this is, I mean, today is just the latest evidence. This is kind of the way it has been going for him as Speaker. This is the basis of the John Boehner is bad at his job hypothesis. Republicans have been in control of the House for about a month and a half now, and it has been one disaster after another. It has been a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad month and a half for John Boehner. The very first day that the Republicans were in control, on day one, there was the very well-publicized Constitution reading failure. You remember the pages that stuck together in the three-ring binder and all the other passages that were just left out because the Republicans apparently didn't like them? That was just the start. During that first week, there was also the swearing-in failure. meeting where 2 of their own members weren't properly sworn in, but they cast votes on the House floor anyway. That was embarrassing. Then came the Republican pledge to always assert constitutional authority for everything they wanted to do, right? This is this new rule. They would cite a specific passage of the Constitution for every bill they proposed. It was not true of the very first 3 bills they proposed. They said they would do it, and then the first 3 things they introduced, they broke the rule. And ever since then, they've just kept blowing it off. Just this week, House Democrats called out Republicans for still continuing to violate this constitutional authority rule that is their own rule and is brand new. Then there was the famed cut-go program, a promise to cut spending for every bill that adds to the deficit. Under John Boehner, Republicans made this promise and then promptly exempted their very first bill from it. Under John Boehner, Republicans initially promised that they would post online a list of members who attended every committee hearing, so you'd know if your member was doing his or her job and showing up for work. They made that promise, then they decided that they would not do it after all. And of course, there's the everything is about jobs, jobs, jobs failure. Under John Boehner, they have consistently promised that everything they want to do in the House is about jobs, jobs, and nothing but jobs. House Republicans promptly introduced 3 separate high-profile sweeping anti-abortion bills instead of working on jobs. Then there were the dueling State of the Union responses. Right? Speeches from 2 separate members of the Republican Party, both billed by CNN as official State of the Union responses. Basic legislating has also proved quite challenging under John Boehner's leadership. Last week, Republicans, who again, they control the House, they suffered 3 legislative losses in the span of 24 hours under John Boehner. 3 bills that they put on the agenda that they wanted to bring to the floor, and not one of them passed. Probably their most high-profile blunder thus far under John Boehner has been the failed pledge to cut $100 billion from the budget in their first year. Under John Boehner, they walked that back almost immediately after taking office. Then they settled on about $30 billion. And then after an emergency meeting last week, they pumped that number up to $61 billion. What they promised was 100. No, sorry, didn't mean it. And now today, more. This is the kind of thing that Beltway media supposedly loves, but so far nobody's really saying beep about it. Under John Boehner, Republicans pledged to bring open rules back to the House, essentially meaning that Democrats would be able to offer amendments on bills and they wouldn't limit debate. After breaking this pledge for most of the last few weeks, Republicans under John Boehner today finally decided to allow open rules. What they got was more than 400 amendments on their spending bill. 400. So far, they have gotten through approximately 4 of them, 4 of more than 400. And one of those amendments is a big one-finger salute to John Boehner from his own party. Mr. Boehner is one of the Republicans who wants to spend $3 billion more on a random extra engine that the Pentagon does not want. The fighter jet in question has an engine. This is a second extra engine for a plane that's already got an engine. Full disclosure, GE, one of our parent companies, helps make that engine. The military does not want that engine. They have said they do not want it. But John Boehner really wants to buy them anyway. And today, a bipartisan group of House members, including 2 freshman Republicans, just elected, they came together to tell Mr. Boehner, Mr. Speaker, you're wrong. Speaker Boehner's own Republicans, including freshmen, are revolting over him wanting to dump billions more taxpayer dollars into something the military explicitly says it really doesn't want. And he's doing that while he is trying to attack President Obama for wasteful spending, with $3 billion of inexplicable defense pork hanging around his neck as Speaker, hung there by his own party. Being the Speaker of the House is a constitutional position. You are third in line to the presidency, and you have a constitutional responsibility to conduct the business of the House. You have a lot of very sober responsibilities. In real terms, though, day to day, you function as the leader of your party in Congress. And for the Republicans this year, Mr. Boehner is the only constitutional officer of any rank who is a Republican. John Boehner is the Republican Party's guy in Washington. And when you look at the evidence, regardless of what you think about the Republicans' agenda, whether you are for it or against it, I think that John Boehner is bad at his job. There is one other way to look at the job of being Speaker. One other way that a Speaker can succeed, even if they can't get things passed, and even if they're not good at message discipline, and even if they're not good at party organizational things. One other way that a Speaker could succeed is just by sort of being famous, being the face of the party, having enough personal charisma and personal appeal to just be a celebrity Republican and have people like you and respect you as a figurehead, like you for who you are and for what kind of person you are. Maybe he's going for that.
I love you.
I love you too.
No, Gippy, why are we such criers?
You know what? You could be Speaker of the House.
No.
Things are not working out for John Boehner message-wise, legislating-wise, party discipline-wise, or what he's famous for-wise. The Bush family is openly mocking him on network television for crying too much. Is there something that John Boehner is doing that he's great at that I'm just not seeing?